Forgive me if I go fast. I know you like it when the videos are short. DESMOS.com, nothing in front of the word Desmos. Click on this button, graphing calculator right there. Now, when you're doing this work and you are just making up an equation, say for example, I did 2x plus 4, it will graph it. It knows that it's supposed to be y equals, but for the purposes of this project, you do have to put down y equals first. I don't want to see any random numbers being typed on these lines here. Now, the basic project is that you have an inverse. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some numbers that are super weird and big. That way you aren't likely to reproduce them. There you go. And I'm zooming out. I'm using my fingers, but actually I can use this button right here. That's my zoom in, or that one, that's my zoom out. I'm in the upper right hand corner here. I just want to make sure I could see that y-intercept. There it is right there. That's my y-intercept. Now, for the purposes of making the logo, you don't actually have to do the whole algebraic process until the end, okay? So we're just making our inverse right now. I had a y equals 20x plus 40, and now I have an x equals 20y plus 40. The x and the y have swapped. It's super cool that Desmos will allow you to graph an x equals line. It's neat because it means that you can see your inverse right now. Now let me make sure you could see that these are mirrors of each other. I'm creating my mirror line, y equals x. It's right down the center here. And then I noticed that this red line right here, it got reflected over to this blue line right here. And this section turned up right there. And that section, it reflected on the other side to there, right there. So it's kind of neat how one part, flipped this part of the red one, flipped over to that part of the red one, that part of the red one, flipped over to that part of that one. So now we know that we've got an inverse. I'm going to mention to you, it's really important that you know that I love color schemes, and so does the company that is looking to hire you. Look at that beautiful color scheme right there. We're going to pick all red, okay? And so all I did was click and hold, and I have these options for different colors, okay? Now, I want to make an X. Why not? Let's just make a basic X. And I'm noticing that I already have an intercept here, and I already have an intercept here, and it looks pretty cool, so I don't see why I can't use it, That's neat feature that Desmos has, that whenever you're intersecting the x-axis, whenever you're intersecting the y-axis, or whenever two lines are intersecting, you can just click on it to see where that happens. Now, I don't want that dot. I'm not interested in that dot. I'm interested in this dot right here. That's where they intersect. Okay, so now I love the fact that I could click from here, and know that I need to reach, what point it is I'm trying to get to when I'm restricting my domain. But down here, I'm not exactly sure what numbers to use. So let me zoom out one more time, and I'm going to tell you that a really handy thing you can do is set up what I call a helper line. Y equals negative x. Now, let me turn on my green line. These are perpendicular lines here. Okay, my slope with y equals x was 1. Notice that when I put the 1 in, the graph doesn't change at all. That's because there's always a hidden invisible 1 in front of something. Here, negative 1. How do I get a perpendicular set of lines? I make them be the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite reciprocal of 1 is negative 1. And you'll have seen me gone over that process in class maybe once. But just for the purposes of creating my helper line, when I want to make it go all the way down here somewhere so that it's, kind of having the same distance as this dot right here, what number should that be? I'm going to guess. I'm going to do a little bit guessing and just kind of play with it until I get it to where I like it. Because I definitely don't want this purple line up here. I want it down here somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the y-intercept. I'm also going to turn off my mirror line. Here we go. Let's see. If I do a plus 10, that moved it up. So obviously I'm going to need to move it down. So I'm going to minus 10, and notice how it goes down. Well, that wasn't far enough. How about a minus 20? Well, that's getting better. Let's try this again. I'm going to throw in there my favorite number, life, universe, and everything. 42. Looks pretty good. Look at what I've got. I've got an intersection here. I've got an intersection there. and I have an intersection up here, and I have an intersection up here, and that's going to help me do my domain restriction. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but when I click on the purple line, it highlights this line, so I know what line I'm working on. When I'm clicking on that line, I'm up here, and when I'm on that line, I am right here. So what do I want to do? I want to highlight this number, highlight that number, and I'm saying that's where I want to restrict my domain. I want this red piece to start here and go there. And notice how I'm only talking about the first numbers in both sets because I'm only going to restrict the domain. So negative 38.095, here's my curly bracket, negative 38.095. And I'm going to throw a less than, and then I'm going to throw an equal sign and watch it turn into a less than or equal sign, just like that, magic. Here I'm going to do it again, less than, equal to, and then I want it to go all the way up to 40. And now my red line is perfectly restricted. It's exactly where I wanted the X to be. I love the way that looks. Okay. Now, what about this line? I do want to restrict it from here to here. Be careful though, because some kids are tempted to put a 40 on this, but that's not where I want to be. Hold on, I've highlighted 2 dots and I don't know how. Hold on. There we go. I don't want that 40. Again, I only want the X value, so I'm going to stop at 0. What number is this though? This is negative 3.905. So negative 3.095 all the way up to, here's my less than and my equal sign, and my less than and my equal sign, all the way up to 0. So notice how I'm being very careful. Now I've done something wrong and I don't know exactly what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight all this. I'm going to hit Control and Control and X, and that cuts that line because I put the wrong number in. It was supposed to be negative 3.905 and I didn't do that. Whoops, so I'm going to fix it now. 905. I swapped the 2 letters on the 2 numbers on accident. Now you can see that it is correctly cut. And if you make a mistake like that, that Control and X cuts it away, and a Control and a V will repaste it, and then you can, change the numbers that you accidentally typed incorrectly. Now this helper line down here, it turns out I don't need it anymore, so I'm going to turn it off. And look at that, I have an X. What do you mean? I can't see an X. Oh, whoops, sorry, here, look. There's a wrench over here, and I'm going to turn all of these things off. And now, do you see my X? I'm noticing that this line isn't quite as long as I want it to be. Maybe that line right there. It's not quite as long as I want it to be. I could change my helper and make this be more negative, and then this would be a little bit longer. But I'm not worried about it. That's too much work. I want to get to the next part. For some of you, when you want to make the next part, you get a little bit lost about, well, I've got a letter. What do I do from here? Well, first of all, you got to figure out what letter do you want it to be. For example, if you don't mind the letters lay on top of one another, I don't mind either. So say, for example, I'm going to do like a Y, okay? So Y equals, I'm going to say like 3x, and I want it, that's fine by me actually. 3x plus 1. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Although maybe I want it to be like a minus a 3. That's a bunch of 3s there. You could see that. You're maybe not seeing what I'm seeing. Hold on, let me do the inverse. X equals, let's do this. X equals 3y minus 3. There's where my y is supposed to be. Again, I see the y, but it's not exactly where I want it to be. So I'm going to move this up. I'm going to say plus 5, and then here plus 5. And is that closer? No, it feels even further away. Whew, this is hard. Okay, so let's do a minus 5. Minus 6. That's fine. Minus 6. Okay, that's okay. How about maybe I do 16? I'm trying to get it nestled in there. Aha! There's where I want to see that y showing up. And I like the idea of it being just this little piece right here. Do you see it? And then I want to have that y coming down through that x like that. And I want them both to be, let's see, I want them both to be, I don't know, why not blue? So I'm changing them both to blue. And I can, again, create a helper line that goes across here, and then I'll have the y coming down from here. And the y can be like y equals x. That line is allowed to be a part of your letter if, you're making like a y and you needed something to go all the way down here. And then as far as coming up here and having the y go across here, I'm not exactly sure where I want it to be, but like, let me just throw, remember how I had this helper? Not that helper. This helper right here. Maybe I don't want it to be down at 42. Maybe I want it to be up here at 20. Okay, still not high enough. How about I want it to be up here at 30? Well, that's pretty high. How about 35? That seems perfect to me. And then at the bottom, maybe I want the y to actually end right there. Do you see what I'm saying? So now I'm going to go and I'm going to manipulate all of this, and I'll come back and then you'll see the finished product. All right. Okay, so I've got my Y done, and I'm going to take away this helper line, and now you could see it. And I wanted to mention to you that part of the project is just, messing around in Desmos. First of all, I want to make sure that you know that you could change the width of your lines. If you want to make them, fat, or if you wanted to make them super skinny. I want to make mine fat because I think it looks good. So if I change all of these to have that same setting, then they'll all be the same. Or if you wanted to make that Y just look kind of small like that, you're allowed to do that too. Another thing I'll mention is you can change them into dashed lines. You could change them into dotted lines, and that's all cool stuff. Keep in mind you're allowed to do some shading. So say, for example, that I wanted to turn this into ready less than or equal to. If I don't put the equal to, it automatically makes it a dashed line because it means that it's not allowed to actually equal. So dashed lines mean that it's not equal. But if I throw the equal down, then boom, I've got some shading here and it kind of shades that line, that Y. I'm not really liking that. I don't want to shade that Y. I'm going to turn it into a greater than or equal to, and that shades down. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I think that looks cool. And if you think it looks cool too, that's perfect. Now I'll say that when you're going, you're like, I think I'm done. It's like, well, are you sure you're done? I don't know. Maybe I want to change this guy to be, maybe I want to change him to be a greater than or equal to 2. So now there's 2 sets of shading, and I'm going to zoom out here. Well, that looks pretty cool. Remember to do these following things before you turn it in. Ready? Click on that wrench, turn off the grid, x-axis, y-axis, unless you turn them into part of your project. I like it if you turn them off. And then every time you make any teeny tiny little change, what you're doing is you're changing the length of the graph. So when you think you're 100% done, click the save button up here. Give it a name, Desmos logo. And I'm doing Shatraw because that's who I am. I don't want Miss Shatraw to be confused when I submit my work. If it has my last name on it, it makes it really easy for her to notice that this is my project. Click save and then come up here. And now that you're done, if you really want to be done, you can close that. There's your logo. Super cool, super neat looking. Let's do this. Ready? Let's share that graph. That's the link that you want to copy and throw into the Google project, Google Classroom, okay, so that we can look at it. And there you go. Now, if you want to see how to add an extra shape, parabola, then it can turn it into a heart. That's the next video.